All right, welcome everybody. This is Chris Petri. Thanks so much for stopping by, painting along here on my channel. We're going to go over a wonderful painting here. This is a beautiful boathouse, a nice fishing shack here on the water. What we'll do is we'll peel off the tape right now as we start out, but you'll see every detail here that we covered in this tutorial so that you can paint the same painting with not a problem. I cover all the steps as we go, the colors we use. This is the finished painting. We're just peeling off the tape now so you can see how good that looks when you tape off your paintings, right? Oh, that looks fantastic. Okay, and then we're going to show you definitely all the washes here. So we're going to be covering how you're going to mix your washes. You're going to be using French ultramarine blue and that gorgeous purple, ultramarine violet, a little bit of that. We're having a real fun time. We're going to cover the color scheme. So that's all about color schemes. You mix your colors first and then you paint your painting. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to show you, we're going to mix our colors. We're going to get into the greens, a little bit of that brown in there to add some neutralization to the green to give you a nice olivey green there. Then we're going to cover a little bit of gold. We're going to use a little bit of gold here like this for our shack and some brown. So we're going to cover the brown and the gold colors mixed in here and there. And again, plenty of green, some nice blue colors for the sky and the water, cerulean blue, viridian green. So we're going to cover all the colors. We're going to put them all out on the palette, describe what colors you're going to use, how you're going to use them, and we're going to go right through the painting. And again, this is the glazing technique painting, so you're going to do a very light wash over the entire painting first, let it dry 100%. You can dry it with a blow dryer or let it dry naturally for an hour or two, and then come back and we do our darker washes over the top. That's as simple as it is. And if you're a beginner just starting out, or whether you've been painting a couple years or so and you want to learn this glazing technique thing, join along with us. We're having a great time here. So we'll be right back and we'll start out with the sketch and cover everything A to Z, and we'll get going. All right, well, we just sort of finished painting, and we're going to just start our beginning process of laying out our drawing and our sketch and our contour drawing. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to just get some marks on our paper here. You can always use a Sharpie if you want, or pencil is fine. So maybe I'll just use my pencil here. I think I'm going to go for the, kind of tried and true 1/3 space division going vertically. So we'll go 1/3, 2/3, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So the first third about there. We'll start out. That'll be our horizon line for the water and land, like that. We'll make a hash mark there. And then you can always measure if you want to. If you feel like you want to just have more of an accurate 1/3, that's fine too. This paper is approximately, I'd say about 9 by 9. Let's see how close I am. 8 1/4 by 7 1/4. So it's 8 1/4 by 7 1/4 square, pretty much a square. And then if we were to make the space divisions 1/3, you can always if you have the metric system, it's kind of a little bit sometimes simpler to break things down smaller, like divide. It's easy, I think, for dividing things when you use centimeters, because it kind of breaks it into smaller. So this is about 18 centimeters here. So 3 into 18 is 6. So that's 6 inches, or 6 centimeters, 12 centimeters, and then 18. So that works pretty good. Like that. And then, other than that, we're just going to want to put the shack a little bit off center. It's a little bit to the left-hand side here. So we'll do that. We'll kind of maybe say to ourselves, maybe we'll put a we'll make this line level across the paper. That's a big, kind of a big pet peeve of mine. And you might notice that a lot of times. I want to have that line level across the paper, right? Because that does really, I mean, sometimes you can have like your horizon line of your ocean or a field or something like that. You can't have it trail off on an angle. Or if you have a table, you're working with something like with a table, you can sometimes, if you're sitting there in front of a table or if you're sitting in front of a landscape and you see an angle to your field, or if you're sitting doing a still life, doing some flowers on a table and you see the table on an angle, that's fine. You can do it that way. That's kind of sometimes a little more interesting at times, but it's up to you. You're the artist. You'll figure out kind of what you like to see in your painting as far as, but for landscapes, I like to have that real just level line across, perfectly level. And then this way it just kind of, most times when we're walking around in a landscape along the ocean, especially, it's seascapes and ocean scenes, things like that, beaches, you're going to pretty much, it's going to be level, your ocean line. And even your land too, if you're like near some like bays and things like that, and you have like marshes and all that good stuff. So I'll just make sure I kind of, you could use the square ruler and just square up your T ruler. I'm using a T square ruler. You can square up on your paper like that where the tape is, and then just do it that way. Or you can also measure to the same amount. Like if this is 6.5 centimeters, you can just come over here, measure 6.5 centimeters, make a mark, and then line up your two hash marks, one there, and draw your line. So either way is kind of good. Gets you where you want to go with your level line across your painting, your composition. And then from here, I'm going to use a smaller ruler. And I really think that you could start off with the ruler just to lay out the overall design of the painting quickly like we're doing now, and then you can go over with we'll show you how we're going to do that. We're actually going to just get things in the place we want them to be. Our shack, we just got our horizon line of our ocean and some of our marshes here along the ocean. And once we have that, we're kind of good. We have a good basic core design and layout of and then we can go over it with our contour drawing. So we'll go over that next. Contour drawing, but for right now we're just going to lay things out a little bit. So let's just say we make the shack maybe 1 inch over from this edge. We'll start it there. So we'll just take maybe we'll even go a little more. Maybe we'll go 1.25 inches like that, 1.25 inches. And then maybe we'll make this, you could use measurements. So if you're using roughly the same size paper, it doesn't have to be the same exact size paper, but if you're using a paper approximately this size, you can't go wrong. You just use the same measurements I'm using. You can just take your time. If you got to hit pause while we're going through this, you do that. I know all of you that have been painting and drawing and painting with me for a long time, you have your own process of how you like to work along with the videos, and that's great. And someday soon, maybe we'll be chatting online and people will give some good ideas. I'd love to really actually hear from a lot of you we've been painting a long time together here on YouTube. I'm thinking of having some workshops on Zoom call workshops. And I'm also set up to do one, I think, soon with another art center. So once in a while, I sometimes get together with art centers and so forth, and I do Zoom call workshops. So like hour-long or 2-hour-long workshops. So, but I'm going to have my own actually soon. So I'm going to set up my own workshop soon. Hopefully you'll be interested in maybe joining along with me, and we'll just get together online. And then this way it's more of an intimate setting. You can ask questions. You can barrage me with all the questions you have. We can go over things. I'll have my paints and my paper out, and I can go over anything you might want to see up close and personal. Because I know sometimes here I'm making paintings, and it's not really like I'm sitting down individually with everybody kind of going over things. And I'm sure many of you that might have questions or ideas or things you want to kind of maybe ask questions about or see me do, or so it's like a fun atmosphere just being online, maybe 5 or 6 people at a time. We all get together online and we just get together for a couple hours and paint and draw together and just have like an open forum type setting, which is really exciting. It's fun. I've done it before and it's really a good thing. So I'll be having that in the future coming up soon. So here again, 1.25 inches. And then we're going to go over, for this, I would say 2.5 should be fine. 2.5 inches over this way. And that gives us about, we're almost at the center point now of the painting with this. Maybe we'll go over a little more than 2.5. Maybe we'll go over, well, I'm looking at this, yeah, we're going to have to stick with the 2.5. So let's do that. Okay, so from right here, the edge of the tape, 1.25 inches. And then we leapfrog over here to 2.5 inches here. 2.5 inches from this hash mark that we just made. And that's fine. Then we're just going to make a square. Basically, this fishing shack is going to be square. And so I'm going to go up about 2.5 inches up above. Like this. And I'll just make us 2.5 up here. And I go kind of lightly with that pencil sketch, as you can see, because you can always erase it and, move it a little bit. But you can't go wrong, too, by just taking this line and saying, all right, 1.25 inches here. You can come up here and say 1.25 inches here. And then you can just line up the ruler there. And then just say, okay, we're going to go 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches up. And we're in line with this hash mark here, which was our straight up and down hash mark. And then also you can utilize a T-square ruler if you want, which saves you from having to make that second hash mark up here. If you're on a straight surface down here on the bottom of your paper, resting your T-square along that square edge of your paper like this. And all you got to do is just crease your paper a little bit like that when you tape it down. And then you rest your T-square ruler right on the bottom of that tape. And you can get a perfectly plumb vertical line anywhere you go along this, as long as you have that T-square ruler abutting against your bottom of your paper. So there again, we went with our line here. You can always, again, measure up, make your hash mark there, and we called that 2.25, was it? 2.5. We went up 2.5, made a mark. Then you can come back with your T-square and then say, all right, I'll line up those two like that, and then you can have it like that. And we'll do it over here, the same thing. Just double check our measurement, 2.5. Come over here, 2.5. Make a hash mark up here, lightly. Take our T-square ruler, slide it over to that hash mark, and there we have it. And come back down like that. And then here, very simple. Again, you can use your T-square ruler. Rest it along this here. You have your vertical edge of your paper here, like that. Rest it along there, and you just get a very light line here, just so we have, that's going to be the top there. And then we're going to put a gable roof on this. And it's going to be maybe like not an extreme angle on the roof. So if I could just demonstrate a second here. I have a piece of paper somewhere. Let me check. Okay, so I have so here you could go 2 routes, and this is something you could change if you want to, but let's do this. So here we have our square shack. You can go with a taller measurement on the center here. So what you do is you get a center mark here between the two. So here my shack is 2 inches wide, width across. So I go 1 inch is my center point. You make a center point there. And then you just measure up however high you want the ridge of your roof. So if you want maybe a steep roof where it might be in the northern regions, like let's say I'm from the New Jersey, so I'm really like the northeast northeast United States. So if you say my area, the northeast New Jersey or above up into New England area, you're going to have more steeper pitched roofs. So you might go with like a 1.5 inches up here like that. That's a little bit too much, right? That would be too steep. So you kind of can actually take a scrap paper like I'm doing, and just kind of, do some preliminary sketching, and just say, how much do I want my roof to be? Well, let's see if we go with 1 inch above this level line we made across here, 1 inch, and then we just take that line and go down to the edge. Yeah, that's about the pitch you'll see on roofs in the northeast of the United States, like that, because we do get a fair amount of snow every year. And then we're going to have that go over like this. Now, we could also make it a slider pitch. So we could even go like this and say, all right, let's just do the same thing again. We'll make a square for our shack like this. And we'll make our center mark here, and I'll just do it quickly so I don't bore you. This was 1 inch. Let's go half inch up, like that. And then take that point there, your center point, and you go down to the edge of the wall there. And like this. Now, this would be something more like the South. So maybe the southern eastern seaboard of the United States, where, the Carolinas, Virginia, Maryland, even down into Florida, all those areas where it's a lot warmer, not much snow, the pitches of the roof are a little bit slighter. So maybe you want to make it your roof pitch something close to where you might live. So it maybe resonates with you a little more. Like maybe if you see a steep roof, pitched roof like this in your painting, you might say that looks awkward, because maybe, if you live in an area where there's not that much snow, you're going to see mostly like slight pitched roofs like this. If you're up in the Northeast and you live up here in the Northeast or in the northern latitudes, anywhere around the Earth actually, you're going to see those steeper pitched roofs like this, or even more steeply pitched roofs. But those would be like kind of the two that you would see, like, kind of a more steep and a slighter pitch there. So on this one here, I'm going to go with a slighter pitch, just because why not? I lived in North Carolina when I was a young boy, so that was really beautiful down there. And I think the roofs were not that steeply pitched, actually. So I'll go with a half inch. But first, let me get my center line. 2.5. So 2.5 inches. If you break that into half, is 1 inch and 1 inch. And then a half inch, you go a quarter inch. So 1.25 is halfway, like that. And then I'm just going to go up a half inch height right on that point there. And then I'm going to take my ruler and just take that line and go down to the edge of the wall there. And over here, same thing, edge of the wall here. Now for this here, I might go a little bit, I'm going to go further out with the roof overhang like that. And the same thing over here. I'm going to go a little bit more with the roof overhangs. So you could use the ruler here. Please use rulers if you like to get your architecture accurate, Or you do it really lightly first, and then you just lightly pencil draw over it. So maybe we'll do that. We'll finish up with a contour drawing over the top of this. Okay, that might be a little bit more fair, because not everybody's going to want to have the ruler, using the ruler all the time. So I'll be kind of this here. We're going to come out a little further like this, and then that'll be so there's going to be a little more of an overhang over here. And we're going to have a really beautiful sunshine coming from this way. And as you know, you all know I like to kind of make a insignia on my border on my tape to denote where the sunlight is. So the sunlight's going to be coming this way. So when we do that, we make like a spotlight lamp here. You could also make a sun like this, so and then do this. The only thing though is when you do a lamp like this, you can kind of more, by making that oval on your lamp insignia, you can get it more accurate. Like if you wanted to do, let's say, backlighting straight ahead like this, then you would make your spotlight like this. And then just make a little bit of the back of the spotlight like that. And that would mean that the light's coming straight this way. Making the oval here with the lamp like this, then you know the light's coming on an angle like that. And then maybe if you had straight down top light over here, then that would be straight, almost straight on down, like that. But these are good to kind of put on your tape around your border. And what else are we going to do? Let's just get a few more details here. One thing we'll do is make the bottom of the shack not even 3/4, 5/8. We'll just go like this much here. And we'll put a line across here. So there's room underneath this boat shack for water in case water comes up, the tide and stuff like that. So we have enough room under there. Okay, so that'll be the bottom. And then we'll make maybe a window or a door over here. Let's make a door. Like that. Just a rectangle. Doesn't have to be perfect again, you know. Rectangle's good enough. The little handle on it there. And we are looking pretty good. Maybe a small canopy over here like this. And a post like that down. And then we're going to have a deck over here coming out like this. And some pilings and a dock here. And we'll just make any old place you can put some pilings here like this. And you put some tops to them like that. That's pretty simple enough, right? Maybe 2 or 3 of these. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to paint them later. And then maybe over here, there's going to be maybe we'll have more of a couple of lines like this. And then that might be for hanging up fish. When they come in and they have the fish and they gut the fish and put them up on some posts and lines like this. Maybe they're going to go out on a couple different trips in one day, so they come back for your first trip. You gut your fish, you put them up, you have them here, you have someone staying here in the boathouse. The fishing shack, you have someone stay here and watch over things, and then the crew goes back out and gets some more fishing time in. All right, and then here we're going to have, again, we've done a lot so far. We're going to take a break. Let's take a break, all right? Let's take a break now. We've done a lot. I'm using my T-square rulers, as you can see. So I want to use these one more time to get some of the distant grasses and weeds in this marshy area, and there's also water, of course. So, and once we get that, I think we're ready to start painting. Maybe we'll get just a few more details with a couple twigs and maybe a tree or two, like really sparse looking stuff. But this is the water, this is the ocean here, right along the ocean, a nice beautiful boathouse, sea shack here, fishing shack, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing this, and we're also going to use the glazing technique, which means we're going to use lots of water and just have a fun time sloshing the water on here and getting some really great colors mixed up in our palette. We'll show you everything here as we go, and just want to thank you for coming by and watching my videos and working along with me. We're having tons of fun here on my channel. So let's come back in a few seconds, take a break. Maybe if you want to stretch a little bit, get a drink of water, whatever you like to do. In between some of our breaks that we take, and then we'll get back to work. But let me just take a quick break, and I'll be back in a second. All right, so we're picking back up again, and we're having an enjoyable time of it here. And let's see what we can do here. I think we might want to just do this bit of, maybe we'll put this other rake, I guess we call this a rake board, like that. We'll put that there. And don't be afraid to do a little bit of erasing, you know, if you need to here and there. But most of the time when you paint everything, you really don't see much of the pencil lines. Okay, so this here, I just want to go with a little bit of a, that's going to be some roofing over here. So this will be this underneath of the soffit. So it's going to be like a darker color. And then I definitely did want to do a little bit of a darker side to this shack over here, because it is actually, we're seeing a little bit of the side of the shack, if that makes sense, over here in shadow. So that's going to be kind of a dark shadow over here on the left side. And again, you saw the finished painting in the start of the video, so you can reference that if you need to. That's fine. And then maybe I will use another bit of my ruler here just to get maybe a, I'll put like a handrail across here. Usually there's handrails around like a fish, you know, a boathouse or a fishing shack, stuff like this. You'd have some hand railings here and there. Maybe not everywhere, but maybe a few spots. Maybe out to here, like that. And then maybe further out on the dock there isn't any. But here you have it. And then up here, again, we said this was like the overhang, a little bit of a, more of an overhang over here, so that if the people are working on the dock over here, they can stay under the shelter. Maybe a little bit of shade, a little bit of the, you know, keep the rain off if there's some rain and things like that, or some drizzle, some rain. And then we're going to have a shadow over here like this. So I'll put a line over here just like that. Just a shadow line like that, lightly. Just so we know we're going to keep this dark over here with shadow for the sunlight coming down like this. So it's going to be a nice bright sunlit day for this painting. And so we're going to have a little bit of shadow under this part too. This canopy over here. There's like a bit of a shed roof, tin roof, looks like tin roof here. And so we're going to have that too as well. And there's another bit of some posts over there. Another post over here maybe. And I think that looks pretty good. Then we're going to have maybe just a touch of some water coming in over here. This, we wouldn't want to be too exacting with a ruler or anything. This is just some water over here. So this would be some of the water that we're just going to kind of see like this. And some of the weeds and grasses and things. And we'll have a couple of maybe some sparse looking trees over here. Just some trees like this over here. Like that. Just a couple trees over here in the marshes. And then we have, again, the water here. This will be water. You can always put a very light W. So that's always a good thing to keep in mind if you want. Just a little, if you ever want to, like, because I know sometimes when we draw, we lose track maybe of some of our ideas as we're drawing, let's say, and then we think to ourselves as we're painting, oh, where was the water again? So it never can hurt. You just very lightly put a W, barely visible. I put it a little bit darker so you can see it, like this. But if you put that, actually, I hope I better turn up my light here. I apologize if my light was a little bit dark here in the studio. Sometimes I have a dimmer switch for my light, and right now I turned it up. Hopefully we can see this a little better. But okay, so that's good. Maybe I can turn it down. It might be too bright at this point. Okay, so that should be pretty good. All right, so now we have everything pretty much in good shape. Let's start painting. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's get our color mixes all set up so that we don't have to really worry about it too much. We'll make our color scheme, so to speak. You always hear that word, color scheme. You know that term you hear, color scheme, right? It's just all it means, really simple. I mean, if you're just starting out here and if it's your first time, by the way, on my channel, welcome here. I'm glad you stopped by or you found my channel. I'm hoping you'll subscribe on the right-hand side below. If you haven't subscribed already, all that does is just really, you'll see my new videos coming out every week because we're always making new videos every week here on my channel. And what that'll do is just, when you open up YouTube the next time, YouTube will just put my newest video in your homepage on YouTube. That's all it does. It's not like you don't get any emails or text messages or phone calls or anything silly like that. YouTube just wants, if you like my videos, YouTube just wants to help you so that you can find my new videos as they come out. So when you subscribe, all that does is just YouTube will somehow send my new videos to your homepage so that when you open up YouTube next time, you'll see it's there somewhere on the side of your YouTube channel where, you'll see the new videos coming out. All right, so that being said, let's get some paint here. And again, we were talking about color schemes, in quotes, right? Color schemes basically just means what colors are you using in your painting, and there's a thought process behind it. We could just, take our paints willy-nilly and go in there and just paint any old color. Obviously blue for sky, we all know that. Blues in the sky, okay. We're going to use some blue for the water. Maybe our shack's going to be brown, wood, wood color, whatever. So all these things you can enhance your paintings by utilizing what we call color schemes. And color schemes is where you can take a grouping of colors that are going to really work together, that are tried and true, that artists over centuries and thousands of years have used to put into their paintings that will make their paintings look much better and more interesting and more pleasing looking to the people that are viewing it. So you'll be happier looking at your paintings, and also anyone that you might give as a gift to your paintings, you might gift your paintings to somebody, or you might make some paintings to put in a show, whatever it is. Hey, you've actually utilized that fun idea of color schemes, which is mixing your colors the way you want to in your own way that you find you want to see your final painting looking like. So in this painting, we're going to make this painting more of a cooler painting. So we'll use some greens, some blues, and we'll put a little bit of warmth in it with some oranges and golds here and there. But we're going to predominantly make it a cooler painting. Let's say it might be, maybe a day where the sun is out, but it's a little bit cloudy. And then we'll have that idea as we make our color scheme. So we did say we were going to do a glazing technique, which basically is very simple. Glazing technique is you cover your whole paper with water lightly, just a light bit of water on top of your painting, fresh, clean water, and then you put in your first light colors really lightly. You put your colors in, whatever colors your first wash is going to be, very lightly. Then you come back over with darker colors after that first wash of color is dry. So that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so now I'm going to use some flat brushes in this painting. So you might have a couple flat brushes. These I have in my set here. Actually, down below I have all my art supplies. So you'll see all this stuff in my art supplies down below. These are the Princeton sets you can buy. Maybe 6-7 brushes in a set, and you have the flat brushes just like this. Maybe there's a couple of round brushes in the set too. But these Princeton ones are great if you're just starting out and you don't want to spend a ton of money on brushes. And then eventually you might spend a little more money and pick up some other more, maybe more higher quality brushes, but that's up to you. But we'll start out with a larger brush for our first wash because we need to cover a lot of area quickly. So I always have my water bucket over here to the right side of my... So I have fresh, clean water that I put into my water bucket when I start out, and I empty my water bucket numerous times during this painting. I won't necessarily tell you every time I do it, but I do empty my water bucket often so that I keep the water pretty clean as I'm working throughout my painting. So I put that over to the right, and then I have a small sponge that I can take, and when I rinse off my brush, I can tap the water on the brush. So if I rinse off my water container, I rinse off my brush, I tap off a little bit of the excess water on a paper towel or sponge like this, and then I go in and pick up my paints and we mix our paints. You wouldn't want to just rinse off your brush and then come right over here, because then all of a sudden you can see that, all the dripping off my brush. Eventually then your paints will get all flooded full of water, and then you won't be able to get the right color tonal values that you want to get. Sometimes you're going to want a dark, rich, vibrant color. If your palette's full of water because you're not taking a little bit of water off your brush before you go there, then you're going to have these huge puddles in your palette. and that's going to make it really hard for you to paint the way you want to. So just a little, little bit of information, a little tidbit of information on having a little sponge or some paper towel next to your water container so that you can just rinse your brush off, tap off a little water, and then come over here and then get your colors. So we said we're going to do basically a cool, and you did see the finished painting, so we're not talking about anything mysterious right now. You kind of saw what we did. You saw the finished painting in the beginning of the video. And then we're going to have a little bit of purple maybe too. So blue and purple. I'll have a little bit of the ultramarine violet, purple. And then French ultramarine blue is my blue. Rinse off my brush, check off a little water on a sponge. Okay, and then we're going to have also greens. Let's mix up some greens. So we're going to have some sap green over here with a little bit of brown mixed in it to make it more of a olivey green. Okay, and then over here we'll make some more greens over here with a little bit of Viridian, which is a cool green. So now you can kind of see we have a cooler green over here like this. It has more blue in it. So that's more of a warm olivey green. And then over here is a cooler green like this. So we have that really beautiful cool green. You can add some blue to it, some cerulean blue as well. So now you kind of see our color scheme as we're going around. Purple and blue, green, which is sap green, or olive green. If you have olive green, you can just use olive green. Add a little bit of brown to neutralize the color to make it a little bit more olivey, and you can add also a little bit of burnt sienna to that. So you have more of an olivey green, right? And then this one here, you rinse off your brush so you can get a pure, nice bit of Viridian green like that. So now you have some Viridian green. And I think some cerulean blue would be nice, like that. Right there. And then our final bit of raw sienna over here, the orangey color we were talking about. So you're going to have a little bit of yellow ochre or raw sienna, like that. Okay, and that's going to be like sort of our beautiful complementary color. So, and a little bit of orange. Maybe we could take a little bit of orange there too, like that. So it's mostly going to be the blues and the purples and the greens. And then we'll have a little bit of gold in there. We'll sprinkle that around here and there. And that's going to be our color scheme, and that's really it. And it's real kind of simple to do it that way. You have everything here in your palette now, right? Ready to go. And then now what we do is the first thing is we just take our brush and just lightly dampen the paper. That's all you want to do. Dampen your paper. One time all the way across. You just pick up the water right out of your water bucket and get some dampness to your paper. You wouldn't want to flood your paper with tons of water, just enough to make the whole paper damp. That's it. Dampen up your whole paper, just like this. Right? Nice and simple. Just cover the whole thing. Go up and down like this. Use a large brush though, right? A good sized brush. You can even use a larger brush. I have brushes like this. That would work too. But we're having fun with this one. This one's like a 1-inch brush maybe, or a 3/4 inch brush. But, again, you get that water on there and just up and down and side to side, get it all damp, and that's all you want to do. And then the next is the fun part. Let's just get some of that blue for the sky. Just a light bit, though, right? We don't want, okay, if you have a little bit of a problem, you added some green there. You weren't supposed to put some green in the sky. Lift it up quick with a paper towel or a tissue, like I just did, and pick up some more blue. Like this, some more French ultramarine blue and a little bit of purple. And now you're back in business. You see? Never worry. If you have an issue with putting the wrong color on your paper by accident, you don't have to worry. You just blot it up quick with a tissue or a paper towel, but you got to have it on hand, right? I have tissues all the time right next to me by my table. I have an art table here, and I have my actual board here. I have a large board with my stuff all on top of it, taped down, my paper. And I also have a roll of paper towels. You got to have that too. Keep a roll of paper towels nearby. In case of, sometimes I've spilled my water container many times on the table. So, on the floor and whatever else. So yeah, always have a little bit of paper towels. And all right, so there we go. The sky wash, right? And then we'll take that sky wash and go across here in the water. That bit of water that we had over here. That little bit of Okay, just like that. And then maybe some green. Over here we're going to have green. But remember, this is just your first preliminary wash. You don't want to do anything definite, like as far as trying to paint anything. Like you don't want to paint weeds in or grasses. You just want a light preliminary wash over the whole paper, just like we did here. And you see how that works out. It looks good. You have everything on here nice and light. That gives you your whole base to your painting. And then it's kind of home free after this, because then we're just going to go in with our darker colors. And we'll be more purposeful with those washes that we go on top of this one. But this is the beautiful first underwash, the first glazing technique. I cover this in my book. If you want to check out my book, I hope everyone will purchase my book and check out my book. I've got over 65 of my best watercolor paintings in my book. And so that means you'll have years and years of fun painting all the paintings in my book. I give you all of the colors that are in each of the paintings, how I painted. I'll tell you if it's a glazing technique painting or if it's an alla prima. In future videos, you'll see me do alla prima paintings. I'll explain in each of my videos how you do alla prima paintings. This one is the glazing technique, the glazing style painting. But again, I hope you'll check out my book. And I have a 2-minute video on my book. How easy is that? You can see every single page in my book. And if you're just starting out in watercolor, your first weeks or month or even year, my book has so much information in the very beginning, basics to watercolor, so that you get a good start. Foundational knowledge of watercolor is key when you first start, and I have all that information in my book too in the beginning. And again, I do have a video, a 2-minute video of my book, so you can look at that, see each of the pages, all the information in there. This way you're not buying a book and next thing you get it doesn't look anything like you would imagine it would be, as far as having good paintings in there, good information. It's a great book. Hope you're going to get excited and pick up my book. It's very inexpensive. It's like a encyclopedia for your watercolor journey as you start out. And I don't want you to miss out on great information. I took a lot of time to put my book together, years actually, so that it would be just right for everyone when you're just starting out. And even if you've been painting a couple years, you'd still have a lot of good information in there that you can actually utilize to maybe create some more interesting effects in your watercolors. All right, so we did our best here to get our first beautiful wash on there, and look how good it looks, our first glazing. Now all we have to do is let it dry. So you can use a blow dryer if you want to work really quickly and get to the next washes, or you can let it dry naturally for like an hour, hour and a half maybe. It depends. If you're working in a really warm room, it might dry in a half an hour. If you're in a cooler room, let's say, or it's a little bit cold out and you're working in a porch or in a basement or something like that, you like to work in a cooler climate, which is nice with watercolor. If you can work in a little bit of a cooler climate like a garage or a basement, you sometimes have a little more time to work on your paintings because it doesn't dry as quick. But in any case, blow dryer works fine. If you're working in a atmosphere where you just want to get quickly onto the next washes, blow dryer works fantastic here. I'm going to actually use my blow dryer, dry this off, and we'll come back. But it does take about 2 or 3 or 4 minutes to blow dry this off and dry it. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. All right, so now we're going to actually work into some of the darker tonal values, the darker washes. And I think I'll probably use a smaller flat brush now in this. So we first started out, this is probably like a 3/4 inch brush we started out with, doing those really large washes. And now, since we're going to kind of work into this, smaller areas, we'll use a smaller flat brush. So you kind of, it's a matter of feel. So you'll kind of know when you're going to want to move to a smaller brush or a larger brush as you're working through your painting. So I will do that. And actually this one would work just as well too. So, but I think this one's pretty good. I'll use this one here. I'll rinse off my brush again. Over on the side here, fresh clean water. And what I'll do is I'm just going to use the same colors, maybe some brown and gold, raw sienna, touch of maybe some cerulean blue there. So we'll just we'll put the colors back right in the places. Here's some Viridian. We'll put everything back in the same places. Sap green and a little bit of burnt umber to warm up that sap green into an olive green. And then we have some more. I think we're pretty much good with the blue. I don't think we'll use much more blue. I think the blue and purple, we're pretty good on that. I think we will use some, actually. Let's put some blue in there. We're going to use maybe blue and burnt umber for some shadowing, maybe. So maybe we'll just add that little bit of French ultramarine blue here. That was the same spot we had it in, so we're just keeping everything in the same places. And then we just added a little bit of burnt umber to it here to make it a little bit darker. Like that for our shadow. And maybe a little bit of cerulean blue over here and some purple up here. Like that. And again, now you'll notice that when we're making our darker washes now over the top of this and this is dry, I use the blow dryer, so this is completely dry. You'll notice that it's less water in my palette now. So when I'm mixing these paints out into my palette, much less water. Can you see that? How that's like there's no paint dripping or anything, or watery paint dripping anywhere. You just want to use mostly paint, almost just straight paint with a little bit of a damp brush. But we don't want to add much water to this. We don't want to add it, actually just straight paint with a little bit of a damp brush. And that'll get you your next washes that you're going to look to have, which are your darker tonal values. Now you will rinse off your brush as you're working and dry off. Again, we're using the sponge next to the water container. So you have your water container, you rinse off your brush, you dry off your water on your sponge, or you could use a tissue or some paper towel, whatever you have. And then you come over here and you grab the colors. And then we're going to just start out with our shadow. Why not? Let's start out with our darker shadow under here. And again, you saw that finished painting. And so we'll have some blue too, and purple in there. And then I'll just take my hand and move it around. But again, this is all dry now. The whole paper is dry, so I can rest my hand on the paper very carefully and just put that dark wash here all the way across. And then I spin around this way, take my hand, spin it around this way. And we use our brush right like that to just make that line. So these flat brushes are perfect for architecture. Flat brushes are great brushes to work with. And if you use a flat brush in your painting, probably best to use it a lot. So your painting will take on a look of its own if you're using a lot of flat brushes in your painting. For the majority of your painting, I would say this: we're going to use this is a needlepoint brush, an Alvaro Castanet needlepoint brush. I buy these from his website, alvarocastanet.com or .net. These are great we're going to use for the trees, the twigs, the branches, some of the grasses and things. We'll use this brush, but for the rest of the painting, let's just use the flat brush because it is working fantastic for us. It's getting us those straight lines we want, architectural lines, and then we have this first dark wash in here. Then I'll take some of that brown and blue, and we'll start getting in our golden brown, our shack here. So I'll start that, and I'll just do some vertical. And I would add a little bit of that brown up here in golden color up into this shadow too. Like that. A little bit of darker over here. Okay. And then again, some burnt umber and some raw sienna for our shack color. You can go right over here, right to the edge. And then again, I rest my hand on the paper over here where there's this is dry, the paper. And I take my brush, and then I can just take my brush and just gently get those nice straight lines you need, just like that. And you can change your washes, take your brush maybe leave some paper there, a little bit of sparkles of paper. I'm using Arches rough paper. And if you leave some sparkles on that shack here, you're going to be happy with that. Okay, so it kind of gives you that rough feeling of wood. And you can kind of see we're just having fun here. We'll make the door a little bit different maybe. Maybe we'll leave that door. Let's leave it white paper for right now. We'll come back and maybe we'll put some other color on there if we want to. And then we'll pick up some more darks here. And come right up along here. There's some shadow under there and definitely some dark shadow under there like that. And we said we were going to put some dark shadow on this side over here. Let's get that in. And again, how simple is that? You rest your hand on the paper over here and you just touch down your brush carefully as you go to get that really dark shadow over here. And you try to keep that in line nice and straight with your flat brush like that. And that to me looks really good. And we have, again, that dark bit of wash under here too. And there's some darker wash there like that. And then we have some darker wash over here too, underneath this canopy here. That bit of roofing over there. And sure enough, we have some, this is where you can get some great straight lines with your flat brush like this. Like that. Right across here like this for the railings. And you have some railings like this maybe. And maybe you just touch down a few railings here and there. Like this. That's it. You don't have to get every single one of the spindles of the railing in. You can just do a few here and there, and you don't have to do anything accurate. Just with your flat brush, you just touch down, and you can see how this fits right in perfect with the railing like that. See how that brush fits right in there like that? So you wouldn't want to try to do your railing with something like this, because you can see it's too wide. So you, again, if you have, it's always good to have maybe some versatility with your brushes. Have some different size brushes. So you can see I have different widths for the, so that'll be really a key for you. If you like painting architecture and things like this, then you'd want to get yourself some sets of brushes that you have some versatility with the width of your and sizes of your flat brushes. That really makes a big difference. And again, if you're doing larger paintings, then you're going to work up into brushes like this. But you can find all these things online, of course, on Amazon. I buy all my art supplies on Amazon. Most of the things that I have that you'll see here in this video are going to be on the links below on my channel, on my in the description box below. You'll see most of my art supplies that I'm using, but there are some that aren't going to be there. But you'll see how things shape up here. And then we're going to, again, keep continuing to work with the darks here. This is like that. And then we might go with a little bit of dark under here like this. Like that. And then we can do our pilings like this. So, and now we're just at the point where we're having a lot of fun. We're, you know, kind of using our flat brush to just get really a lot of our information in, our architectural information, our dock, our pilings, just looking good. We have some water over here. We might make some reflections here. There's going to be some darker darks here. We'll go back in, get some French ultramarine blue. Always remember, if you start to run out of a color, don't procrastinate. Get back in there, get your color mixed up, some more color mixed up that you need. And this way you don't run into the problem of maybe having an issue with not having enough color mixed where you need it. And then I think think I just want to get into this is even a little bit of a smaller brush now, this one here. So this one here, so this one's even smaller yet. And this is fantastic because now put some shadowing under here like this. There's some boards under there, some bracing, so like this. That's fine. Okay, so we have some more details there. A little bit of shadow there. So now there's the point where we actually will put a little bit of shadow on this door here. A little bit of dark shadow over here underneath this part of the door, right underneath the, like that. But you can see this is really coming along really nicely. You could certainly go back in with this brush here that we started with the first washes, and you could take some green, mix a little bit of each of these colors just to get some color on here. And you can do some boards, so some like boards on your the facade of this boathouse, this fishing shack. You could take a little bit of the paint off your brush to kind of keep maybe the boards a little bit more subtle. But maybe we get some boards here. Just a couple of lines. And I just have my hand on the paper, and I don't lean into my paint over here. I keep myself far enough away that I'm not leaning into the paint. And then a good rule of thumb is, I don't know if I mentioned this before in this video, but if you're right-handed, you'll start on the left side of your painting and sort of paint from left to right. And then if you're left-handed, you'd start on maybe some of these things over here and paint right to left so that you're not leaning into your paint. So I kind of always am so used to painting left to right like this because I'm right-handed. So I'm sort of... But I think that's good for the boards. A couple of, maybe some markings of mostly all vertical lines, but you will have a couple of small, tiny little bits of horizontal lines in there too, where the boards are pieced in. So the boards are maybe, pieced in here and there. They're not just one whole piece of board. These boards on the shack are actually pieced in at like maybe 8 feet, another 10-foot board, another 6-foot board, another 10-foot board. They're all mixed and matched in there. But that looks good. You have some boards in there. If you want to, if you find you've gone with too many details with your boards, you can certainly dampen up your brush, rinse off your brush, take some of the water off the brush on a paper towel, tissue, or sponge, and then maybe you can even just soften up a few spots. So you can roughen up a spot or two with some sometimes you might want to get back a line, like the line of the edge of the, over here on this line here, which is the edge of the building. You can get that line back a little bit. Just dampen the brush and Maybe we need to add a little bit of a better, sharper line over here. Like that. I'm telling you, we're almost 100% good. Let's take another quick break. And what I like about when you take a quick break is sometimes you take 5 minutes, you get a drink of water, a sip of tea, coffee, whatever it is. You take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you come back, and then before you go back and start working again, you look at things and you go, oh, what do I want to do next? Oh, I see, I want to do this next. I want to add the grass here and some of the water. Oh, I definitely want to add some more reflections of this color into the water over here where there's a bit of water going across here. Oh, I remember I definitely want to work on some of these trees and twigs, and I think that's going to be it. That's going to be the painting in total. So that's what we want to do is we take a break, we come back, we think a little bit about what we're going to do next, and then maybe as we're starting to take our break and we're stepping away from our painting, we're looking at the painting too and saying, what am I going to do when I come back? Am I missing anything? Did I forget to do something? And that's really why breaks are really actually good, because you can sort of like step back and just evaluate what you've done so far and then maybe think about game planning what you're going to do as you're coming back for the next bit of painting that you're going to do for your next 15, 20 minutes or half an hour. All right. I'm excited. We're getting there. We're almost completed. I think we'll be done in the next 15 minutes. So let's come back after we take a quick break and we'll finish up everything and it'll be looking fantastic. All right. So we're coming back now and I think, let's, do this. I'll probably use a little bit of the fan brush here. Does anyone have a fan brush out there? I think some of you definitely have these fan brushes. I had this from my Bob Ross days when I used to paint Bob Ross, and there was also William Alexander and Lynn Petard. They used to be on public TV in New Jersey when I was young, when I was only 15 years old or so, 16. I remember watching them on TV, and that was my first real, painting. So I started painting like the oil paintings, the wet on wet Bob Ross paintings when I was really, really young. And I just dabbled in it once in a while. I'd get excited watching the show and I'd go out and buy a couple, tubes of paint and some canvases and some paint. And I would paint, for maybe a couple weeks or a month. And then, I got caught up with doing other things. But, I did try doing it, as much as I was inspired and excited. I did do that when I was younger. And so I still have some of my old gear. This is an old brush. Probably from the times when I was painting the Bob Ross paintings and William Alexander. And so we'll use this. This is a fantastic brush to use for weeds and grasses and things. So let's use this. I'll put this over to the side for a second. And then we'll use the brush that we started with here, like this. Maybe I'll put that over there. So I'll just rinse off my brush. I think I'll empty my water. Fresh, clean water in the bucket, in the water container. And what I'll do is I'll just take some of that bluish green and that olivey green, and I'll just maybe see how we're looking over here, if I can just get some. So I'm just doing some quick, simple downstrokes like this, and I'm kind of trying to keep it right where the edge of the water is. So I want to leave this area here that we said we had some water, and we'll have some more water up here too, and then the same thing here. Then I think we'll pick up the fan brush, and I think I'm just going to do some grasses and things, and hopefully we can get some okay. Then I'll pick up a little bit of sap green and burnt umber. We talked about neutralizing that sap green with a little bit of burnt umber to give us that nice, beautiful looking olive green. And this is how we get these bits of grass over here. Okay. Pick up a little more water. So I put just a little bit of water in there. More sap green, burn umber, that nice olive green. And I just keep working in that. And then here, you can always pick up that brush again here and get some more just wash in there. Along the bottom, I'll keep it kind of solid looking. But then over here, I'll turn the brush sideways like this. You can darken up your wash, burn umber, sap green, a little more thicker paint. Maybe a little bit of cerulean blue mixed in there too, just to darken it up a touch, like that. And what's great about this is you're painting thousands of little bits of grass and weeds and things. And you really wouldn't be able to do that if you were trying to do it with a small brush like that. Okay, so that's just a really fun way to, and then you can always do a couple little bits over here, but not too many over here on this section over here because that's in the distance. So if you can imagine in the distance, the further away things get in your painting, you'll do less details. So that's why I'm going to put a little bit. And what this is now, there's hardly any paint left on my fan brush right now. Hardly any paint left, and that's how I can get just a little light bit of some grass and some little bits of upstrokes of grass and weeds and things like that. But I hope that is kind of works, and I hope this is going to be working. Good job. I know you're doing a great job back at your studio, your home where you're working. You might be in your easy chair with a table set up, or you might have a sketchbook. But this is where it's all now coming together, looking good. Next thing we will do is we're going to use our needlepoint brush. So I rinse my brush off, get my needlepoint brush with plenty of water, dampen up that brush, and then now we're going to, same thing, we're going to use some of the same colors. We'll use some cerulean blue, some burnt umber, so burnt umber, cerulean blue, maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue, so a little bit of a darker. And then we're going to take that brush and we're going to do some. So we're going to start our tree down here at the bottom right-hand side. And then we'll put a little bit of water in there. So this is where you would add a little more water. French ultramarine blue, burnt umber, cerulean blue. You have to have enough water on there. And now you'll see that it is a little bit of some extra water in there, but not a ton. That's still really good, thick paint in there. And then we can just do some really nice calligraphy and okay. And that's really nice. That sets everything else in the distance because we have a tree now in the foreground here. Now this one over here, I dry off my paint. I don't want much paint on my brush right now. My needlepoint brush is going to be now a lot less paint. So much just like a little bit of paint on there because now we're doing a very fine bit of tree over here. And here you just kind of flick the paint on. That's the whole fun of this brush is all you have to do is just get a little bit of paint on it, hold your brush up high and just kind of go up with upward strokes. And then you get a wonderful effect with that. And if you practice a little bit on some printer paper to start with, you'll have it. And there we go, looking good. And we had one here, and then maybe one more here. Like that. Just a few bits of detail really go a long way. Not too much, right? Just a little bit like that. Perfect. Next thing we will do as we're finishing up is we will, maybe we'll take some of that mix with some green, and we're just going to do the shoreline here. I'll add a little bit of burnt umber and cerulean blue. So burnt umber and cerulean blue, kind of, and maybe a little bit of purple even too, right? Like a nice kind of shadow color. And we'll just do a little shadow color along the bank here. And that's all we have to do is like that. Just do a little bit of a shadow where the grass is along this water. And then we also take some brown and some gold. So that's the same colors we used before. Burnt umber and raw sienna. Like that. And we just have a little bit of that color in there. So that it looks like it's reflecting down into the water here. And I think that looks pretty good. Now we could do a little bit of, at this point I would take a little bit of paper towel and just clean up a section of the palette like that quickly. And take some cerulean blue, French ultramarine blue, and cerulean blue, and a little bit of the Viridian green, and I would try to maybe add some over here to the right side over here, just a little bit over here to give us an indication of some water. I wouldn't go all the way across. I would kind of end it up right over here. But just a little bit of a line of water. That's just, to me, if you add that little bit of line of water there, that goes a long way. It kind of just conjures up like the feeling of, yeah, there's some beautiful ocean here and water. And we do have some more over here. You can add some more of that blue over here. Rinse off your brush. Maybe just add a little bit of water to it. So you want to have some of that water too over here. That feeling of coolness of the water like that. And then you can always go across with some lines like this. Like that. Just to give a little bit of that feeling of water. And then maybe a few bits of, I rinse off my brush, and then I dry off the brush on a tissue or a paper towel, and then I just do a couple of lines, vertical lines like this, like that. And we could even go in and do a little bit of that color of maybe the dark again, the dark for the bank of this over here. Like that. Maybe a few more bits of you could even do some of just a little bit of foliage on these too, right? That looks pretty good. but I wouldn't go. I would just do a tiny bit of that, right? I wouldn't do too much. The key would be not to have too much paint on your brush here. Just a little bit. Get some paint on there. Dry it off on a paper towel or a tissue, and then just do a couple little. And you could even do a little splashing if you wanted to. You could add some water to your brush, to your fan brush like this. Add a little extra water to it. And maybe just tap on a few taps of splashing. Just a little bit though, not too much, like that. Maybe a couple down here, a couple splashes down here. Just to give it some texture to your painting. So if you put splashes up here a little bit, probably best off to add it a few more places so that you're not just having one splash in one place in your painting. Like that, you add a few splashes here and there. You could even tap a little bit, do some finger tapping if you want. Finger painting. We used to do that when we were in kindergarten, in first grade, and in grade school. A little bit of finger painting and have a good time with it. Enjoy the paint, the texture, the colors. All right, well, we had a fun time. Probably the last thing I'm going to do now is let's do a few figures. I will use a smaller brush here. I'll use a round brush. And this brush, incidentally, comes with the Schminke set. It's a round brush, travel brush. It's really fun. You can, if you want to take it out and do a couple little sketches, if you go to the local coffee shop and you want to take a little sketchbook and have a little bit of painting while you're having coffee, you can take this with you. You put it into your purse, your pocket, your backpack. When you go, you open it up and you have your brush, you put it together, you paint. Then when you're done, you take it. And again, you can stow it back in your pocket, a purse, whatever. Great. These travel brushes are fantastic, and this palette's fantastic too. It's a very compact palette, so you can use it anywhere, really. You can take it on vacation, weekend getaways, just around the house. We can use it for our regular everyday palette. But now for the figures, let's just have a fun, simple, some burnt umber, French ultramarine blue, a little bit of cerulean blue, and I'm just going to put a few figures here on the by the boathouse here. So I'm going to have a figure here. What I like to do with figures is just start it out with the head and then put the top of the figure, the head and the shoulders, and then just work on down to the feet like that. So that's one. And then you can add some arms here if you want to. You can get some details in there. One person there. Maybe there's another person over here. You can change the color a little bit. Maybe this one's a little cooler. Maybe in the distance we'll have somebody over here. Like that. Maybe there's someone over here fishing. They have a fishing rod there. And they're just having a fun time sitting on the dock here, just having a fun time enjoying some fishing here. And if you ever feel like, oh, maybe I don't like maybe I'm not sure if I want that person there fishing, you can take some damp water and blot up. You could blot up a figure. If you didn't like a figure the way it comes out, no big deal. Take some damp water, dry off the water off your brush and just use a damp brush. And then take a clean paper towel or tissue and just do that. You could blot up something like that very simply and then just go back in and make put the dock back in there like that. And then you could even just do something different. You could maybe put something out there. Maybe we could just put something out there like a barrel or something like that. It could be a barrel like that. So you can correct things in your painting if you don't like something. Feel free to do that. Learn to do it. It's good to have that versatility to be able to maybe blot up a few things. But I think this is fine. I might put a chimney on the... I'll put a chimney on there. I will put a fun seagull or two. All right, so we had fun. I'm glad you joined along. We're going to be doing more paintings like this in the future. We do everything here on my channel, watercolor. We do landscapes, seascapes. We do boats, things like this, architecture, houses, buildings, city scenes, street scenes. We do flowers, still life paintings. We do a little bit of figure painting once in a while, and portrait painting. We have a great time doing watercolor, so if you find that you're interested in learning watercolor, perfect place to be. Again, you would subscribe on the right-hand side below just so you don't miss anything as we're going forward. And you hit the thumbs up button if you like my videos. If you like this video, you hit a thumbs up. You leave your comments. Any questions you have, always remember, I'm in the comments section all the time. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask some questions, or feel free to comment. And just, thank you, too, for everyone that stops by in the comments section, thanking me and giving me a lot of great encouragement and praises and things like this. I really appreciate that. It really goes a long way for me. I'm really excited to paint on YouTube here and have fun with everyone, and we're just having a great time, and we're just going to enjoy the journey. The watercolor journey is really fun. You just start out. It's just step by step. You keep going. You learn as you go, and before you know it, you keep learning and growing and learning more and getting better and better and better. So let's keep working on our watercolors, having fun and enjoying it, and we'll see you on the next video.